So this is Mike Gordon, artist name is Mk.gee, and a few weeks ago, a friend of mine showed me this video and it completely blew my mind. I've been playing guitar for 21 years, and oftentimes when I hear a guitar sound or I hear a guitar on a song, you can kind of pinpoint, ballpark what it is, what guitar it might be, what kind of amp or signal chain it might be. But when I heard and saw this song and this video, I was completely dumbfounded. I had no idea how he was getting this guitar sound. The song is brilliant, the vocal melody is beautiful, the progression's beautiful, but what really stuck out to me, besides the visuals, which are incredible in their own right, is this guitar sound. And the more I started listening to Mk.gee, and not just his solo work, but his work with Dijon, I'm blown away by this guy. I think he has such a fresh and interesting take on guitar and what guitar can be in modern music and where things are headed. I love it. So in today's video, we're gonna take a look at Mk.gee and what makes his playing and his sound so unique and so brilliant. But before we jump into the video, a quick plug for my Fretboard Fundamentals ebook. You can get it for free via the link in the description box down below. You just put your email in and you will get access to the ebook. It's basically my Fretboard Fundamentals guitar theory course condensed down into a 35-page ebook, and it's free. So check it out. With all that out of the way, let's take a look at the rest of this song. I've watched this a dozen times now, and I still don't know exactly what's going on here. There's a few recognizable elements, right? There's obviously chorus happening. There's obviously some kind of stereo ping pong delay, but there's this crazy sort of harsh, brittle distortion that's only coming through when he's hitting the guitar super hard. And it's from an old Tascam Portastudio. So he's known for using a lot of DI guitar sounds, which we'll actually look at his live rig in a minute. But he uses a Tascam, I think a 414, a 4-track cassette recorder from the 80s, and he's plugging his guitar into the preamp and I think just diming the preamp and using the EQ. And I've got sort of an approximation here with my Portastudio 424, and it doesn't quite do the same thing, but it gets us in the ballpark. And this is so brilliant because I would have never thought of doing something like this. Plug your guitar straight in and use an old cassette deck as like a preamp overdrive EQ fuzz thing. Now his guitar is a Fender Jaguar, but he's playing in baritone tuning, so he's got really low, I believe, flat wound strings. And I think in this tuning, he's in standard baritone. It's kind of a rough approximation. I've got my Revolta baritone going into my Portastudio, and it's sort of like this sound. So you can start to kind of hear what I'm talking about. If I play lightly, I get this sort of 80s high headroom sort of thing. But then when I dig in, there's that super harsh distortion. Now, I think the unit he's using is that 414, and I think it breaks up a lot sooner than mine does, the 424. This is a later model. I think the preamps have more headroom, but this is incredible.
I really don't think there's that much going on. I hit maybe 2 pedals for the set, honestly, but I got a BF2 flanger, there's a delay I barely use, the mood for like pitch and some reverb stuff, and the effects arranger just for like a crazy distorted, kind of crunched out reverb.
So I know a lot of, when you guys first posted those videos before the album came out, a bunch of folks were geeking out, wondering exactly what this old 4-track was doing. You're just using it as a mixer?
Literally just, it just breaks up into this, just a 1 channel.
Yeah, so that's, I think that's a Porta Studio 414. That's an earlier version than what I've got. And I think that's a big reason why his is breaking up much harder than mine. It could also be down to the pickups of the guitar and what he's got before it on that pedal board, but I think that big, gnarly, splatty distortion sound is coming from that Tascam. Okay, so I think that's what's happening. He's got a combination of the Ranger going into that 414 or that cassette deck, and that's that sort of violin-like thing I was just talking about. It's like the Ranger is giving him that super mid-rangey violin, beautiful sustain thing, and then when he really digs in, he's getting that breakup thing. Okay, so this one's called Are You Looking Up? It's off of his most recent record, which is fantastic, by the way. I recommend you go check it out. I'll have it linked down below. This, I think, is a perfect way to describe and sort of wrap up what makes McGee so brilliant, in my opinion. This part is so memorable, and it's equally like old school reminiscent of like the 80s, late 80s sort of synth pop sound, but with this really interesting modern guitar sound. So I've got this set up on my baritone here. I think we're in the same tuning, but he's basically just doing this. This tone is so much fun to play because it really rewards dynamics. Like, because this preamp has such high headroom, if I'm playing lightly, like he's doing, you get this really lush, high fidelity DI sound that's not too DI-esque. You know, these old Tascam preamps are not the most, you know, high fidelity, high headroom things ever, especially that older unit that he's using. So you can get this like really soft, lush, beautiful sound, but then when you dig in, and the rest of the sound I've got, I'm just running DI into my UA Apollo here, and I'm using one of their plugins for the chorus and their Lexicon 224 plugin for the reverb. It's just an approximation of what he's got going here, but when you do that, when you put your reverb and your chorus after this sound, it's just this big, lush, stereo, you know, and that harsh, brittle distortion that cuts through gets put through that reverb, and it kind of smooths it out. I highly recommend you play around with a sound like this. If you don't have one of these old cassette recorders, try it with your DI and your interface. You can probably approximate something like that. And in fact, there is a pedal, I think, that does this kind of thing. The Templo Devices Real Deluxe. I'll have it linked down below. But yeah, I just think this is brilliant. I think McGee is such a great example of why we live in a golden age of guitar. There's still beautiful, new, fresh things that are happening in guitar these days. The younger generation of players are just doing interesting and new stuff like the sound and blending it with familiar sounds and familiar songwriting techniques and chord progressions and melodies that we all know and are familiar with, but doing it in this really unique and interesting way, and combined with these beautiful visuals. I don't know who did this video, but obviously Mk.gee and his team and his collaborators, people he works with, they know what they're doing, man. The visual element of this and the Dijon stuff is so brilliant. It's so interesting. That pairs with his interesting and brilliant guitar sound and his songwriting. I love everything about this stuff. I think it's so cool. I'm such a fan. I'll have all of his links down below, you know, if you want to go check out his music or catch Dijon, hopefully on tour at some point. These guys are brilliant, all of them. I'm a fan. Don't forget, you can get access to my free ebook, Fretboard Fundamentals ebook, via the link in the description box down below. And while you're down there, please subscribe. It does really help the channel out when you do that. My name is Rhett Shull. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.